Hi everybody, welcome back. When we left off before, we just finished with putting the Sculptamold down. We were smoothing it out. One thing I didn't show up to this stage is once I had the Sculptamold, it kind of leveled off to a certain point. I went through and I stippled it all, just to give it a little bit of texture, just like this, through the whole thing. Just helps out, in my opinion, if you want to change stuff as you go. So I did that, and then what I did is, since this is going to be a middle of the summer scene, very green, I just painted the base with a regular cheap craft green. Don't use anything expensive. Oops, don't use anything expensive. It's all going to get covered up. This is just in case you see through it. If this was going to be a fall scene, I would have maybe done tan or something close to what I'm doing. Basically, the whole thing's getting covered anyway. This is just to, in case you miss a spot, so you don't see through, and that just helps out. Now what I do is I have the basic layout in my head. This is post-war, this is a what-if, this no historical value, which makes it a little bit fun, but a green scene, not a bland autumn scene. This is going to have all sorts of green foliage. What we're going to do is I had a model commissioned, I had built by Giuseppe Randazzo over in Italy, and on his website he had some other ones for sale, and I buy models now and then just because of time restraints, and he had this one on his site, which I just thought was neat, which rang a couple bells in my head. I'm like, you know, I can do something kind of neat with that. Usually I do historically accurate and World War II German related stuff, but I thought this would be fun. So I purchased this from him. Excellent model builder, highly recommended. I'll actually put a link to his site after. Now I have a thought in my head. This is basically going to be a field scene with a shrubby line, with a big tree, a couple other trees. Post-war, we're going to say this is on the Soviet side. This is where the war continues. Berlin wasn't taken over as planned. A couple wonder weapons came into play, and actually the Germans started pushing back and regaining ground again. It's total what if, but that's where we're going with it. There'll be a couple neat twists at the end as far as the soldiers on the Soviet side. So what I'm going to do is get my basic spot, because what we're going to do is we're going to put a layer of static grass down first. And my plan is that this will be field, tree, shrubbery. It's going to be rolling over the field. What I'm not going to do is static grass the shrub line or where the tracks are going to be. It's not going to be mud, but as I'll show you later how we're going to do the rolled over field look, there's no need to put the static grass there. A lot of times I'll static grass everything just because I change my mind as I go. But this I have a pretty good idea of. So what we're going to do is, we have not built the tree yet. This tree is going to have foliage on it. This is a tree we're going to use. I had already pre-poked a hole. What's nice about the Sculptamold and foam is, instead of like a plywood base or total plaster that's hard, you can put stuff in with relative ease. So to get my basic spot, I'll tell you what, I'll pull this out so I don't crush it. Now we're going to build this tree too. It's going to have foliage on it. So let's get our basic spot. Something like that. Now there's going to be another tree, not as big, because obviously once we put foliage on it, this thing's going to be big. A field, shrubbery. Shrubs are going to curve around. This will be field. You know, we'll have the usual little sapling spot or that kind of stuff. To me, with a scene like this, lots of stuff. Not just a field with a tree. If you look at any field with a wood line or shrub line, we want a variety. We just want stuff. We want bushiness. We just want clutter. And then in the end, we'll actually add some of that to the tank itself to blend in with the scene where they would have camouflaged it maybe. So what I'm going to do is, since I'm not going to put it where the tracks are, because that's going to be separate, because what I want to do is once the field is in, we're going to put the field grass on the tracks last. We're actually going to use the scenic mud, but the dry version. You're not going to see the mud. It's only so I can get an accurate look, because I'm going to put the field grass and all that kind of stuff into the wet track marks, and then we're going to roll it over. So it's not going to look muddy. It'll look like a little depression, but that's how we're going to have the heavy tank look rolling into the field. So what I'm going to do is, I think I'll do it like that, just to give me an idea. So I'm not going to static grass it. I'm going to get close. You probably can't see this. It's pencil. I don't want to use anything real dark because in case I do miss something and you see through it. The other good thing with static grass is it's how I hold the field grass in, what you'll see later. It's like a giant pin cushion. Makes life much easier. I'm going to get this thing close, and then where I'm going to stop, I'm going to move the tank. I'll continue. Doesn't have to be perfect. This is just to, it'll also help me keep the tank in the right spot. And I'm also not going to put it where the actual shrubbery is, because as you'll see when we build that, we're going to build that up a little bit. Although this looks very flat and plain and toyish at the moment, it's going to get altered. Alright, so put this tank back on. Okay. Now we know there's going to be shrubbery through here. And I haven't yet decided if I'm just going to make it go over the edge, which I think I'm going to. So I'll put a little static grass on each side, because I want to continue the field on the other side. Now let's move the tank now. I don't ruin that. Okay, I'm actually going to take the tree out now too. And next time you see the tree will stick in, it'll actually, we're going to kind of do that construction behind the scenes. Okay. Now you probably can't see on the film, but I see where I'm not going to put it in the track marks. I got a kind of idea in this area. Even though I'm probably going to add a little moundish here with the saplings, I'm still going to cover it all. I can go over the static grass with that. Now what we're going to use is sill floor static grass. We're going to use a 4mm late summer and a 6.5mm summer, which is just green. We're aiming this to be summer, so down below there's going to be some old growth, which is where the late summer is going to come in. I'm not going to use fall or anything like that, because at this stage of the summer you wouldn't see any of that. But you may not even see, in the end, you may not even see the late summer one. So this is just in case. But we're just going to blend the two. Now the static grass applicator I use, the name's off of it now, but this is a Grass Tech 2. I like this because it plugs in. Honestly, the homemade ones, they work okay out of a fly swatter, but if you're going to do a bunch of static grass work, make the investment. It's going to make all the difference in the world. This one I've actually dropped a couple times because it's got a lot of juice in it, and if you don't ever touch the screw in the middle, if you're filling it up, take it from me, because the thing will go flying through the air. Again, I like it because it's super powerful. I do static grass work with 12mm grass. This will make it stand up. Now a couple things when we do this. I've already got it plugged in. By the way, this takes a battery also. It can be a 9-volt battery, so you can take it anywhere. I prefer to have the full power. If something's going wrong, I don't want it to be because a battery's getting loose or they're dying. Now with any static grass applicator, you need a ground. This is another reason why the foam base under this is actually pretty helpful. It should be semi-close to what you're doing, depending on how powerful your static grass tool is. Since I'm not putting static grass with a Traxxar, I'm just going to go almost in the middle to a point here. Pound it in, little nail, like so. Now normally what you can do, if you're just using one color, you can either put bigger cardboard down on paper because it goes all over the place and you can actually save quite a bit. For this instance, I'm not really going to worry about it. Now this hasn't been turned on yet, so this has no energy, so there's not much to worry about. We might have to refill it as we go. So I'm just going to combine the two, and when I'm shaking this around, it'll actually mix it in there. So I'm not overly concerned. Now, being the two different heights, the late summer will stay down low and the taller 6.5 will come through. Now, what's nice about this, like I said, is when I go to do all the field grass, you can stick it, it makes it very easy. You don't have to hold clumps because I don't want clumps. I want it to be a field, so there'll be a lot of repetition, but the static grass makes it very easy to stick all the individual strands in and any other vegetation or foliage you're going to use. Alright, now this is set to go. Now, as you notice, I don't have tape on it anymore. At this stage, I like the scene to come over the top of whatever the base is a little bit. So the static grass is what's going to blend it, so I'm not worried about that. I'm not worried about it going all over here because it's just dry. I'll just vacuum it up in the end. What we're going to use, for the adhesive, two ways. I'm using the matte medium, the Scenic Factory matte medium that I use on all my dioramas. I'm going to brush it on somewhat thick. If you're quick enough, do the whole thing and then static grass quickly. It's got to obviously be wet. Don't go slow because by the time you get over here and that's dry, nothing's going to stick. Another option to do, which I've done before, is you would have to tape it to a point, spray adhesive. Put a heavy coat of spray adhesive on it. That's quick also, and then go to town. Personal choice. For this, since this is a little more traditional, I'm going to go with the matte medium route. Just going to put some in a cup. And you want to get it pretty good. White glue will work too. Basically any glue will work, as long as it's not fast drying. So, alright, set. We got everything ready to go, so we're going to hit some of the edges first. I can kind of see my line where I'm not going to put it at the moment. Again, I'm going to hit this edge first quickly. You can scrape a little off later if you get it in places you really don't want it. Oops, okay. That's a track. Just going to outline it a little bit here so I can see what the heck I'm doing. Now I'm stippling it because the texture's stippled and I really want to get it in there. And it doesn't have to be perfect. This is going to be our starting, I keep saying starting point, but our actual making it look like something starting point. key is make sure it doesn't dry, so get it on and you have to go back and check real quick before you start putting the grass down. Again, not totally sure what I'm doing here, but it's something. Now I do have it over here where the shrubs are going to continue if the scene was going to keep going to the left. And again, this isn't going to be a mud, nothing to do with mud where these tracks are going to be. You'll see when we do them, it's just to get the right look, right effect of the folded over field. I do want to cover the paint that I have on this edge though enough, so just make sure this is still wet so we're good to go. Alright, looking good here. Alright. That'll work. Alright, attach the grounding wire. As you can see, it gets glue on it, everything else on it, so I'm not overly concerned about sprinkling on it. I'll move it as I go. Turn it on. I like to get it as low as possible. Then once we start shaking it, and again, the matte medium will dry, so whatever, this will just be green and green once it's done. We'll have to fill it a couple times probably. I want to get it heavy. Speed's somewhat of a factor. And in the end, if you turn this upside down, which I will, you can save half of what you just put on. Just label it as a mix now, if you were to do it with the two different colors like I am. Fill it up. Now this is charged, so don't touch that. I actually could have put a little bit more in, but I like to leave space if I'm doing a mix so I can shake it up real good and it flies around inside and it doesn't come out one or the other, it comes out as both. Get back going. Make sure it's on. Continue. Again, as you're shaking it around, I like to get within, an inch of it, if not even closer. You can watch it as it goes. I do love static grass. And again, a lot of that, you're not even going to really see this once I start putting all the field in. This, I'm only just going to see a little percentage of it. I'm just going to add a tiny bit more. Go over it. To make sure. little carpet. Okay, and there we have this stage. Now what we'll do is we'll let this dry. I will scrape some of this up. Obviously you can see it gets everywhere. But I'll turn this upside down, give it a couple taps. All the loose stuff will fall out, and the rest of the grass will be standing up straight, and we'll save it for something else. Okay, that's it for now. When we come back, we'll start the layout again. We'll place things where we want it. I'll actually show you all the products we're going to use in this, and we will start doing the field grass first, because that's the most time consuming, and we'll keep building it up from there. So, okay, we'll see you on that one.